Too big to fail or too slow to scale? Welcome to the Leadership Espresso Podcast today. AI is no longer about replacing or cutting costs. Its real power lies in helping organizations learn faster, innovate faster, and create new value faster. Especially for the European landscape of small and medium sized companies, it becomes a competitive advantage. So the real question is no longer how many people can we replace, but how fast can we learn, adapt, and create together. Today I'm joined by Oliver and Robin, managing the directors of ROOVER, a startup and a leader in AI consulting and implementation, to explore that question, what AI really means for the European Mittelstand. Oliver, Robin, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having us today.
It's my pleasure, and let's jump right into it. Oliver, Robin, where are you already seeing smaller, faster AI native companies outperform larger competitors, not because they have more resources, but because they learn and implement faster?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think there are several industries that really benefit from artificial intelligence, especially if we look at the dynamics around AI and what happens in the US, in China, and in Europe. Because what we see is that, especially in the US and China, the AI infrastructure is being built, while Europe seems to be a little bit behind. Now, the question is not how to build the AI infrastructure, but how to use the AI infrastructure to
Mhm.
create real value, right? And this is where SMEs are super good at because they have a couple of strengths. So, for example, they are very deeply specialized. They have a clear USP, so that makes it really hard for to be replaced by artificial intelligence. At the same time, maybe they're also a little bit slow in digital transformation topics. So that's at least what we experience in our project. And it's really good that we have this infrastructure being created, maybe also by other nations that we then can use. So just to give you an example to make this not so super
Yeah,
abstract,
absolutely. Love stories.
stories are always the best, right? Stories are always the best. Um, let me give you two stories. So, one from a specialized turbine manufacturer. So, very specialized, very deep knowledge. And AI is not there yet that they can actually replace the engineering of these very specialized wind
So what kind of business is that?
so they are manufacturing the turbines of the wind turbines,
Aha.
yeah,
So it's an industrial place
exactly,
and specializing in particularly manufacturing of parts for this turbine.
yeah, exactly.
Is there
So
is it very competitive, that business, or?
it is in some kind because of course you have a little bit of international pricing pressure, of course, and I mean the entire industry is not doing so super well. So of course there are
Right.
some challenges and some competitiveness which is
Okay,
increasing.
I get the picture. So we are in a competitive business. It's a small business, medium-sized business. Margin is probably shrinking. Probably the Chinese do a very similar part or can produce it. So how can AI help that company turn that disadvantage into a value for the business?
Yeah. So on the, I mean, AI is probably not going to replace in the near future the actual production of these wind turbines. But what it can do is it can support the support functions such as marketing, for example. So if the market is increasingly more competitive,
Mhm.
you can differentiate or through communication to attract new customers. So this is where, for example, AI comes into play because it's super, super powerful in these marketing areas. Also for scheduling the production, for
Uh-huh.
example. So
Mhm.
these are the repetitive tasks which then can be automized using artificial intelligence.
But isn't that a contradiction? Like, repetitive task is okay. That's more or less cutting costs because you need less resources for doing a similar job. But where is the value creation? Because, China may have a similar AI tool for communication. So where is the point where it produces value?
Mhm. Um, so, of course, there are several layers to it. And in the first layer, you try to complement the competencies and capacities that you currently don't have. This is what I mean, for example, with the marketing, because you don't have the marketing expert, and now you can have the AI expert that is probably better than the average marketing professional you would maybe get. And therefore accelerate and create value in the support
Mhm.
functions. So it's the competency gap. Then
Okay.
secondly, the capacity gap, because you can now grow also as a business without necessarily increasing the number of headcounts, because you have teams that are human and AI agents, right?
Right.
So you can grow together in this.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I think I think this is already common understanding. So we don't need all the competencies usually have. We don't need the head count. But where does the value creation start? Uh, in the end of the day, you grow to revenue. The revenue is like shipments or service delivered by many.
hmm. Yeah,
I think you have an example in the insurance industry or a project that could show that aspect maybe.
yeah. So also, it's a good point, Stefan. If we want to leave the industrial goods industry and go a little bit more into the insurance industry, what we see there is that there is a medium-sized a company which is super specialized in their area. And they are very good at enablement of their employees. What they reached is a high enablement rate, and therefore everyone in this company is actually using AI and starts to automate processes that are maybe repetitive, customer focused, and therefore can do much, much more with less.
I think in their
Right.
case, I think in their case, when it comes to insurance, I think their idea is because they are not the largest player in the market
Mhm.
currently. They think, hey, they can just get some percentage of the market share from others, from bigger companies, because these bigger companies are way too slow compared to their size.
Mhm.
Because
Too
in the
slow. How is speed a competitive advantage in the industry of insurance?
So in the end, I think it's speed is more about the adoption of AI in the end, because when it comes to using AI, because it's evolving so fast that you need to be up to speed to adopt it. And I think this is kind of like the advantage that smaller companies currently have because they can use AI tools or AI in general to do much more compared to what they could have done in the past. And
Right. Uh, uh, I'm a bit picky on that point. Excuse me. I want to understand. I get the enablement. I get the competency gap. I get you can do more with the same head count. But in the end, this only pays if an extra value is created to the client. So I cannot yet understand where is the value creation part. So maybe you can help me understand this part a little better.
Yeah, so for example, the time it takes until you get a reply, right? So this, of course, is of value for. I mean, imagine you're a customer of an insurance and something happened, and you claim your case, and it
Mhm.
takes 3 days until you get an answer, right? So it is not that AI is actually replacing what we do. So it is not, Stefan, about AI replacing humans and therefore creating value. It's
Mhm.
about AI augmenting what an organization does and connecting dots that couldn't be connected before. And therefore,
Now I'm getting curious. What is this connecting dots? What does that mean for me as a customer?
so, for example, as of now, organizations are built in silos per definition, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't work otherwise. You have an
Hmm.
HR department because
Yes.
as an CHRO, you can only oversee so much, and therefore you need to be specialized in, for example, HR. Or you have a chief marketing officer or chief sales
Yeah.
officer, and so on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now,
That is something big concerns like in our country they know of.
yes.
Yeah. And probably the market leader in the insuring industry as well.
Yeah. And now, why do these silos exist? Because we humans, we have only so much capacity to concentrate
Hmm.
on our area. Now,
Hmm.
with AI, we can connect different dots. So we can create a connection between what is currently happening in the customer-facing departments. So, for example, in sales, and
Hmm.
combine this directly with product creation. So, normally a process that takes a couple of years to create. Now, the agentic AI can connect these two dots and make these flows within the organization much quicker. So the time for innovation, for creating new products, new insurance
Yeah.
products, for
Yeah.
example, can be shortened dramatically.
I mean, this is highly relevant in the market. As we have learned from the Chinese in the automotive market, I'm not quite sure if they build better cars, but what they can do is they shorten the product development cycle from 6 years to 2 years. And maybe that kind of speed is relevant also in different markets to reply, to come up with new products. Do you have examples that show the cycle was reduced from this to this, or that a new product could be created faster and be more relevant and outperform the old players? So are we already seeing examples that before we could call as the Chinese approach, but now it's our approach?
So I would say, like, especially when it comes to the services business, I think we see it in a lot of, like, we work with a lot of agencies, consultancies, where
Hmm.
the product is more like the service. And as you can
Hmm.
imagine, the time to delivery with AI tools is way faster. You can
Hmm.
imagine when it comes to new concepts, strategies. As you know, Stefan, you have been at a large consultancy yourself. And when it comes to gathering knowledge, analyzing reports, and all that stuff, so the time to delivery, especially when it comes to these knowledge workers, is way faster compared to what it used to be. I think this is what we're seeing in the industry that our clients or like clients in general are
Yeah,
expecting a way faster time to delivery. We see it in our work as well as a consultancy
right.
that our clients expect us to be faster because we use AI tools. So there we can directly
Absolutely. Yeah. Oliver, this is what I hear within the top tier consulting industry as well. from big American names, they changed their business model entirely. I just read the other day from the chairman of BCG, Mr. Schweitzer. He told, we're no longer paid by hours and people, man hours. Now we're paid by delivering results, measurable goals. So, as we said, we started out with too big to fail or too slow to scale. BCG is number 2 in the world. What is the difference now between a small AI consulting company like yours and BCG? What is your advantage now?
So I would say I would say that the biggest advantage is that we can deliver to some extent to the same quality and in a faster time compared to these larger consultancies. But I would still say that their advantage lies in their network because in the end they have, like for example, McKinsey as a great example, they have such a strong network and they
Mhm.
are kind of like the human factor comes there into play where they have still that advantage. But nevertheless, I would say to some extent, as Robin was saying, because knowledge is kind of like democratized,
Uh-huh.
that many smaller companies can have the same, yeah, how to say that, to the same, they can get the same knowledge because they have AI tools and gather so much knowledge all around the world that they can come up to the same quality as these larger consultancies in a very, very fast time. And by that, having a way smaller cost structure compared to these larger companies. Because, for example, with us, we don't have that large overhead
Mhm.
as these larger companies have. So we see that as an advantage.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that these human factors like strong network, social, personal relationships, and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure. And still, they didn't really grow the last year, McKinsey, if you take this example. So this is why they are reorganizing it. Anyway, we're still on this too big to fail, too slow to scale thing. And maybe let's go a little bit on this enabling power. Um, so in your consulting business, how does AI help you kind of be at the same edge like bigger consulting companies? How do you apply it?
Well, um, first of all, what I think is happening currently in the market in general is that companies can become much faster, but therefore they also need to specialize a little bit more. And this is not only
Hmm.
for we of course see this in consultancy, we see
Hmm.
this with us, but
Hmm.
we also see this with a lot of other industries. Because if you're moving super fast,
Hmm.
also the complexity is much higher.
Hmm.
So therefore, you need to adopt maybe a little bit more and a little bit faster than before, right? So specialization is really a key, and this is also, of course, what we see as a specialized boutique consultancy. Now, to your question regarding enablement, um, because I mean, AI in this case is a little bit special because AI is moving super fast, right?
Yeah.
So even enablement doesn't stop with the training, but it is a continuous process. So what we do, for example, with our company is we have every week or maybe sometimes even twice a week. We have an AI news stand up. So, what we do is we challenge
Hmm.
each other on, okay, what is currently happening and how can we use this for our daily work?
Hmm.
The simplest thing are new models that come out. A little bit more advanced is,
Hmm.
okay, how can we rethink processes because there is a new technology available, or
Hmm.
maybe there's a
Hmm.
new idea that came up
Hmm.
through a discussion with one of our clients, for example, right?
Hmm.
Um, So this is one way of enablement. And then, of course, there's the second part, which we also do as a service, which is enablement regarding the right use of AI tools. So how do I prompt? How do I interact with the AI? But also, where do I have to be cautious a little bit? There is this nice effect, or not nice effect, a side effect, a
Hmm.
bad side effect,
Hmm.
that we humans tend to outsource our intelligence to the AI and stop thinking ourselves.
I heard about this one.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a big, big problem, right? Especially for knowledge work, because what happens is we humans tend to get lazy and depend 100% on AI. And when we talk about competitive advantage and value creation, that diminishes because it basically is just AI generated, in the worst case, AI slop.
Hmm.
You really need this human factor in there to differentiate also your results when you're a knowledge worker. So this is also part of enablement.
I,
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that part, which is the human factor, which is finally the leadership factor. Now, Oliver, are you starting your day with 10 different AI agents and tell you, okay, today finance takes this decision, uh, in projects take this decision, or how is your week?
So basically, my week, the problem is I don't have a typical week. So from day to day, I need to decide what to do, as you can imagine. But nonetheless, yeah, with our agents. So currently we are working a lot with Claude because I think it's currently one of the best models there. What we see is like we build different agents for different tasks. So we kind of like expand our team to that extent that we have, yeah, our AI consultants, AI agent consultants, let's say them.
Right.
And they help us on researching, on project
Okay.
proposals, on, well, I wouldn't say let's do my finance because to that extent, I don't trust the AI to make me potential mistakes there, or for example, invoicing. I don't trust it to that extent. It can do they can do it to some extent, but in the end, the human in the loop factor for these, let's
Yeah.
say,
And
um,
how do you bring in what Robin said, the human factor? How can it stay or even become a decisive factor?
the human factor. I think
Yes.
I think in nowadays with AI, and everyone is talking about AI, I would say the human factor becomes way more important than it maybe used to be because we were always talking about digitalization, and we always got the feeling that, hey, digital services, digital products will replace humans to some extent.
Hmm.
But what we experience nowadays, especially in organizations, that when it comes to leadership, for example,
Hmm.
that leaders really need to understand where their team is currently standing, what the skills are, what their, let's say, their fears are. And if a good leader can
Hmm.
anticipate what their team or where their team currently stands, they can really enable their team. And not by enabling, I mean like qualification of using AI, but really
Hmm.
empower
Hmm.
their team for this AI adoption and AI transformation. But
Okay,
we see that.
you're talking about the fears that the team has maybe being replaced and not augmented by it. I can see that point, but it's no different to maybe as to lead before because you always handle fears. So how does AI make that human factor even more important?
I would say it's a bit different to what it used to be actually, because because AI has such a huge power. Because everyone is talking, it's kind of like the Industrial Revolution, but the Industrial Revolution for knowledge workers, and 70% of our current economy is based on services.
Hmm.
So it has such a huge impact for knowledge workers for this whole knowledge for this whole service industry that it is a bit different in the way how leaders need to work with people because it's changing so fast and it's changing a lot. So I would say it's a bit
So
different to the feel
it,
that we had before.
and the difference is that the knowledge people become more knowledgeable, and you need to lead people that feel I'm more equal now. I can do it myself. I don't need a leader. Or where is the difference?
I would say the difference is it because you as a person, you you can get the feeling that you're likely to be replaced. So, for example, imagine you are a lawyer, and the
Hmm.
lawyer was studying for 5 to 10 years to become a
Hmm.
lawyer.
Hmm.
And nowadays, like myself, I don't have a clue about law. I can
Hmm.
easily come up to
Hmm.
the point to get a conclusion what a lawyer might say in the same way.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think for the lawyer, this gives you like the feeling that change, it really like it's not just about losing maybe your job in the future, it's also about losing your identity because it is what I learned my whole life, and now a stupid tool as an AI can do the same as what I learned my whole life. I have the
Yeah,
same feeling with being a consultant. Uh,
yeah,
I had to do the groundwork from the beginning, building Excel sheets, analyzing company reports, and all
yeah.
that knowledge, what I gathered there, is kind of like replaced
It's
by
replaced.
AI.
But
So,
let's not stay by the replacement,
yeah,
Robin.
yeah,
I still want to know a bit more about this human factor, not in terms of leading and managing fears of replacement. Um, but could the human factors be something that is a differentiating factor in a value creation part?
Yes, yes. Well, I think the human factor has multiple dimensions, right? Especially in this AI transformation.
Now you're
So
getting me curious. Now you're getting me curious.
yeah, because I mean you have an internal and an external factor basically. So for internally for your team, you as a leader, you need to change your leadership style maybe a little bit because
Mhm,
it's more about empathy. So this
mhm,
is what Ollie just described, right? So it's all about empathy, empowering your team,
mhm, mhm,
making sure they are safe
mhm,
in your team, right?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
on the other hand, you as a manager, you also have AI agents. So the performance review of the hard KPIs you define for your
mhm,
team can be
mhm,
done by the AI agent because the agent
mhm,
has much better oversight over what
mhm,
is your
mhm,
team doing in terms of KPIs and tracking those.
mhm,
But then the people side of things, so the empathy, this is something that needs to come from humans, and therefore I believe that the human to human connection within teams in companies will be
mhm,
much stronger than they are even today. So this
mhm,
is maybe the
mhm,
internal part. Um,
mhm,
and now, how does this translate
mhm,
into a competitive
mhm.
advantage if you have two
Yeah.
companies doing the same thing? Now,
Now we're getting to a very interesting point of our discussion.
yeah, exactly. So, first of all, it is still around very intelligent and brave people in the organization that gonna make the difference.
Mhm,
Why? Because AI probably will be very much giving the same kind of insights and recommendations across all companies. So this is a
mhm, mhm.
equalizing kind of layer
Yes,
between companies.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So if you want to differentiate, you need to do something different than what the AI
Right.
suggests you to do. And this can be due to proprietary data. So information you have, your competitors don't have, so you can act on that.
Mhm,
It's a more technical part. And then the second one is the more leadership part, which
mhm.
is strategic decision making. Because
Mm,
decision making, by definition, is something that cannot be calculated, but needs to be envisioned, because otherwise it's not a decision, right? Um, and this is where the human factor comes into play, because each leader has a different risk appetite, a different experience, also different people surrounding, sharing different visions. And therefore, this leadership vision and the leadership team behind it is going to shape much more the value creation and differentiation in the industry than the processes themselves.
I understand. That was a very interesting part, Robin. Now, it sounds like as if AI is not just enabling, but pushing us to the real capacities we have as human to discern, to take decisions, and to lead teams in a way to deal with more complexity and speed, which usually creates fear. Now, is it bad news for Germany, Oliver, as we read in a newspaper, the German Angst?
Um, I think it can be also a potential actually. I think when we so they for sure the German Angst is always a big problem when it comes to transformation. But I think if we jump onto this train, if we jump onto this train quite early and see this whole transformation as an opportunity, I think we have so much potential because we have great intellectual property here. We have a proprietary data that
Mhm.
our highly specialized industries can use to, let's say, train an AI to make new, better models in the future.
Models, right?
So we can learn from this. So I think that we have a lot of potential here in Germany if we use it in the right way. But this is kind of like where companies are currently struggling because we have this
Mhm.
German fear that holds us back to some extent.
So if we come back to our first statement, too big to fail or too slow to scale, what I learned from our discussion today is that AI is democratizing um, uh, kind of knowledge that everybody has access to, but it pushes company into a speed game, which pushes leadership into uh, even more pressure to take decisions in complexity and speed. And what I learned is that you started out, Robin, saying, okay, organizations, particularly the big ones, are all kind of built in silos, you know, and when they connect the dots, it becomes faster. But the advantage we hang out is that if you're a small or medium-sized company, and the German Mittelstand is world famous for that, could benefit much more from that development as they are more used to taking long-term decisions, more complex, taking more risks because they own the company. It's a family-owned business for long. And it's not as structured, and it plays out much better for them that a smaller insurance company, a smaller production company, a smaller service company can scale much faster because their culture, their leadership, everything plays far better now with speed and complexity using AI. Is that our common sense on today's podcast?
Maybe I would also add one thing because what is really enabling the entire development is specialization. So if the more you're specialized on one topic, on one product, the easier it is in this increasing speed and
Hmm. Hmm.
complexity to
Hmm.
also manage this complexity the faster you get, right? So
Hmm.
I think specialization, my hypothesis for the future is that we will see much more smaller companies specialized in particular services or products because they can much better manage the speed and complexity and therefore create this additional value through artificial intelligence
Hmm.
compared to very big companies that besides the complexity of speed also need to manage the complexity of diversity of different products and services. So this is maybe something I would add to the discussion. Yeah.
Very interesting. I will quote you on this one next year when we speak again. Oliver, what is your final point for today?
So I would say like the advantage really is that companies, especially the smaller ones, can be seen as a speedboat and maybe a
Mhm.
speedboat with two extra motors now. And they
Mm.
can get way faster to their goal maybe compared to larger, let's say larger oil tankers that we see.
Yeah.
And for example, when we see like big, large companies like, for example, Volkswagen, and they are working with AI for sure, but nevertheless, they are struggling to get their tanker in the right direction. But even
Mhm.
these larger
Mhm.
companies have the advantage to build smaller speedboats that they can
Mhm.
use. So
Mhm.
AI might be a potential for these large companies, like we said, too big to scale, or like to
Mhm.
fail, but too slow to scale. But even they can use these smaller speedboats to use it as an
Mhm.
advantage. But nonetheless, I would say like the German Mittelstand has great opportunity if they use it in the right way.
Interesting picture. As I'm a sailor, I can go easily with the speedboat. It may be, if it's also about specialization and scaling much faster, maybe the small and medium-sized business not only build one speedboat with two new engines, but maybe 10. And then if you have 10 speedboats, again, a big tanker, I've heard from a captain that drove a big tanker, a container ship. And he said it's easy for speedboats to kind of rival a big tanker because they can come anywhere. So I want to continue our discussion next year and see how many speedboats you have created and how this scales up. I thank you for today. A very fruitful discussion, interesting point, and I'm very sure this movement will go very fast, and we'll see more interesting data next year. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Robin, for today. It was a big pleasure.